everything going for it. But it's just that alcoholic edge just on the tongue that just numbs everything, and you lose. The finish just dissipates quite quickly as well. As I said, water is just a disaster in my opinion, guys. I'm sorry. Well, good evening everybody, and welcome to my channel Whisky Journey. Tonight I'm going to be reviewing another single malt Scotch whisky for you guys. So I'm going to be looking at this wee sample in the middle. It came as a 5cl sample. I got it in the shop. This is from the Blair Athol distillery. It was bottled by the independent bottler called Dramfool. Blair Athol Highland Distillery. This is a 10-year-old bottled at 59.7% ABV in a refill Oloroso sherry butt. So quite a high strength whisky. The wee sample on my left is from the Glenglassaugh, I think I pronounced that right, distillery, and it's an 11-year-old peated. So that should be quite interesting, and that will be for my next review. Right, so on to this Blair Athol. So I haven't had a chance to taste it yet, obviously. It's quite a small sample. I've got the Glencairn and the Copita out. We'll just do the nosing between the two first and just see what we get. I'm quite intrigued by this one. So it's a refill Oloroso sherry butt in its maturation, and I don't know if you can see, but the colour is quite light. So just based on the colour alone, I'm expecting perhaps less influence from the sherry cask and maybe more of the distillery character, which I think is a good thing. So it'll be interesting to see what we get on the nose. So first of all, let's just taste it. Oh, let's just nose it first and see what we get in the Glencairn. Okay. Right. So the first note I'm getting some malted barley, but then it's almost like you're walking through a forest of pine trees, getting the pine needle sort of note on it. It's quite strong as well. A lovely note. The nose is quite fresh and vibrant. This has been sitting, or both these drams have been sitting now for a good 45 minutes. It's bottled at 59.7%, as I said, and I don't get any alcohol sting whatsoever on the nose. Apples, so there's toffee as well and caramel, so I'm getting that sort of apple toffee caramel vibe going on. There's vanillas. There's a rich earthiness as well to this as well. Some dried fruit character there as well, so some apricot. A little bit of nuttiness on the nose as well. And it's got, this one's difficult to explain. It almost smells like flowers. I get flowers on the nose as well. Just got this very sort of natural, earthy, fruity, but sort of foresty vibe to it. Very, very interesting. And I think I might have mentioned there's some wood and oak. Just a delightful nose, really. It's maybe still just a little bit closed. I think a few drops of water might help on the nose with this, but we'll get to that in a bit. Right, so onto the Copita quickly. We'll just have a quick nosing of that and see if there's any change. Okay, so on the nose here, that earthiness I was talking about in the Glencairn makes its presence known later on in the glass with the Glencairn. This in the Copita, for me, the earthy notes pop out straight away with apples and toffee. Underneath the earthiness, you've also got that foresty pine needle vibe with some vanillas and dried fruits, apples, and some sawdusty type wood in the background as well. So interesting nose, and a little bit different in my opinion between the two. So with the Glencairn I got more of the foresty pine needle atmosphere very on the nose first. With the Copita I get that earthiness and apples and toffee first. So again, for me, no clear winner, both very interesting, and both lovely on the nose. So I can't say which one I prefer. Maybe the Kopiter. I just love any dram that's got that earthy vibe, but that foresty sort of pine needle vibe that I get first on the Glencairn is also delectable. It smells amazing, so very difficult to say which one I choose between the two, to be absolutely honest. Okay, so let's just have a wee taste then. So this is at its natural strength. As I said, not too much sting on the nose at all. No sting, to be honest. So let's just see what we get on the palate. It's quite chewy, quite spicy as well. Right, so initial arrive on the palate: viscous, mouth coating, oily texture. Leads the way with those notes of toffee and caramel and apples. Getting some vanilla. And then underneath that, you then get the bit of dried fruit with the apricot, some nuttiness, slightly herbal. But then it does get quite spicy on that on the tongue. So I'm definitely starting to feel, or I definitely feel the high ABV on the palate. The finish comes along with some wood, some oak, and even now I'm just getting some vanilla, custard, toffee, apples, and dried fruits. Hint of earthiness as well there. It's a lovely palate, but I do think it needs water. That sort of heavy. It was quite spicy on the tongue, and a tad alcoholic. So let's just bring it down a wee bit. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to add a little bit more. Right, so in total 10 drops of water. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. Right, let's see if anything has changed on the nose. I mean, it tastes great. I mean, I love the fruitiness and all those other notes, the dried fruits, the custard, or the vanillas and the wood, but just a little bit alcoholic, I feel, on the palate. Which, I mean, is not surprising. It is a 10-year-old, 59.7% ABV. But the nose, I felt the alcohol was incredibly well integrated. So let's have a second nosing now. So this is 10 drops of water. So we brought it down just a wee bit. Okay, so immediately a bit fresher. Fruits have opened up a wee bit as well. It doesn't feel, as I said, it was a little bit closed. But that's opened up things now, so that earth is coming out now in quite a big way too. But still very much that foresty atmosphere with the pine needles and the pine trees and some flowers as well. And toffee caramel notes as well, but it's become quite earthy. I just love that note. Right. So let's just see if there's been any change at all on the palate for this one. Okay, so as I said, the nose felt a bit fresher, not quite as tight, but the palate is still coming across as quite alcoholic. But in spite of that, I'm still getting all the notes that I got before. So leads the way with those foresty pine needles, vanilla, toffee and caramel and apple, dried fruit, some nuttiness. That bit of water is actually, to me now, it's just added a bit of bitterness to the finish. So I'm getting some oak and wood tannins, but it does come across as being a little bit bitter. Now, that's a very good question. Do you add even more water to bring it down even more? Because I feel that adding those 10 drops didn't do much with the spice and the alcohol. It almost felt, and it's now added that bitter edge to the finish. So my opinion is just keep it at its natural strength of the 59.7%. Yeah, definitely. I'm not too keen on that finish now. It's coming across far too bitter, in my opinion. Interesting that with the water being added, I thought that the water would enhance the Dram. I think on the nose it does. It becomes more fresh. As I said, it was a little bit closed initially, but that water is just, to me, just added an unpleasant bitterness, in my opinion, guys. Again, all my subjective opinion. It's added a bit of, yeah, it's just, to me, I just don't like the finish at all, to be honest, with water. I think the water just destroys that finish. And even now, bitter oak, it's a bit of, astringent as well, but it's more that bitterness, and it's not really that pleasant, in my opinion. So basically, if you're going to drink this, I would personally just drink it at its natural strength and just suck up the alcohol numbness that you're going to get on your tongue. So yeah, what do I think of this overall? So I mean, when this first released, this was 50 quid. So for a 10-year-old cask strength, you can't really complain for that price. And I think that it has a lot going for it when it comes to the nose. I mean, the nose for me personally is the best part of this experience. But at the end of the day, it's about the taste, really. You want it to taste good. And this does taste good initially, but I think the alcohol is not that well integrated and contained on the palate. It just becomes way too strong on the tongue, and your tongue just goes numb, and it starts to dull all those flavors. And it has some fantastic notes, like, as I said, the toffee, pine needles, vanilla, dried fruits, apples. It's got everything going for it, but it's just that alcoholic edge just on the tongue that just numbs everything, and you lose. The finish just dissipates quite quickly as well. As I said, water is just a disaster, in my opinion, guys. I'm sorry to say that. I just don't like that unpleasant bitterness on the edge. I mean, it did open up the nose a wee bit, but hey, would I buy a bottle? Nah, don't think so. I think that if this had been bottled a bit lower strength, perhaps, I don't know if that would have made a huge difference, to be absolutely honest. But yeah, I don't want to be too harsh on these guys, because these guys are independent bottlers. But I mean, it's enjoyable on the nose and initially on the palate. But for me, the finish just, yeah, it's just not my favorite finish, to be absolutely frank. Okay, guys. So as I said, that's the end of my review. So as I said, this is the Blair Athol 10-year-old, bottled by Dramfool, independent bottler. It's a 10-year-old, 59.7%, refill Oloroso sherry butt. And as I said, this Glenglossar 11-year-old is my next review. One thing I will say as well is that a good thing about this is that that sherry influence is quite low in the mix, and it's easy to drown the spirit in loads and loads of sherry. And I think using a refill sherry butt was perfect for this, but I just wish that the finish was just not so alcoholic on the tongue, basically. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel if you wish. It's always appreciated. But otherwise, nothing much else to say except have a fantastic day. I'll see you all again soon. Take care, guys. Cheers.